Do you think your homeowner's insurance has you covered? Maybe. But do you actually know what's in your policy, what's not in your policy, and the mistakes that could cost you thousands when disaster strikes? Today on Know Your Home, we're breaking down homeowners insurance in plain English, from hidden coverage gaps and rising premiums to upgrades and decisions that can actually save you money and protect your biggest investment. Because the last thing you want after a storm, fire, or major repair is finding out your insurance company says, sorry, that's not covered. So before the next surprise hits your home, let's make sure you actually know your home. I'm your host, Dan O'Malley, along with owner-operator of Cook DFW Roofing and Restoration, Daniel Cook. Daniel, my first question today is for you. How much do you love homeowners insurance?
I love it. I mean, we all need it. We have to have. I mean, unless you're, well, I can't even say that. I mean, Bill Gates, I don't know. He probably has insurance of some kind.
Yeah.
Elon Musk. You got to have insurance. Come on now. I mean, you don't want to personally cover every one of your properties.
Right. Because as we know, if you are financing your home, homeowners insurance is a requirement for the loan, for the lien holder. And so it's a necessity for the vast majority of us. And we want to get to know more about sort of the thing that's protecting our homes the most, and that is our homeowners insurance. So today, our guest is Jake Shockley from Shockley Insurance Agency. Jake, thanks for taking the time, sir.
Hey, I appreciate y'all having me.
So, is homeowners insurance the most important thing a homeowner can have besides a home?
I would say so, and it's also the most complicated product of all insurance because they're all different, and so it's a very complicated thing, like you said, protecting your biggest asset. So I do believe there's a big gap with the general public on what their homeowners policy covers and what they think it covers.
So, let's start there. What is a mistake that a lot of homeowners make when it comes to their homeowners insurance, especially maybe when it comes to, I thought this was covered, but it wasn't?
Just knowing their policy. So I believe that most commercials from insurance companies throw this message that all insurance is created equal. On the auto side of things, there is a little bit of truth to that. So coverages are coverages. However, when it comes to your homeowner's coverage, um, people get what we call a deck page, and a deck page will have the max amount companies can pay out for certain things. And what you find is customers believe that if they have a deck page that says their house is insured for 500,000 from one company and another one that says it's insured for 500,000, then those two things are the same and I should go with the one with the lower prices. Customers need to understand that those are just the maximum limits that companies will pay out. What is vastly more important is what has to occur for you to get those maximums. And that is just a very, very common misconception that I have a lot of homeowners come in and say, hey, we're covering the same thing with this company, and this one's $1,000 cheaper. Why would I not go with this one? And before they know it, they've signed up with the cheaper one that has a lot of exclusions with it, and they don't really find out until it's too late and something's happened, and they don't get paid what they should.
Yeah, Jake. So I know from personal experience, I know a lot of policies have what's called perils, and some of them are named perils, and some of them are limited perils based on whatever the policy states. So how does that work in your experience? I mean, what do you see out there a lot of times that's excluded?
Lots of things. So if I was a customer, one of the very first things I would look for is you have two types of policies. You have what's called a named peril policy. So most named peril policies are gonna cover if your house burns down. They're gonna cover if a tornado hits your house. They're gonna cover a lot of the big catastrophe items, but a lot of the more common things they will not cover. So you've got two types of policies, what's called a named peril policy. The way I explain those is those policies don't cover anything except those 5, 6 to 8 things that they will cover. Like I said, lots of times that's wind, lots of times that's fire, lots of times that's tornado, hurricane, those kind of things. The other policy that I would encourage customers, if their budget allows, and most of the time it can because there's not that much of a price difference, I would encourage them to go with a company that has what's called an all risk policy. All risk policies do things the exact opposite. They cover everything that could happen to your policy except the few things that they exclude. So now you know what is excluded. The common things that are excluded on all homeowners policies in Texas, Oklahoma are things like flooding, things like natural shifting of the ground that causes foundation issues. Outside of those few things that they exclude, anything that could happen to your house is covered. When it comes claim time, that definitely cuts down on a lot of the back and forth with the adjuster on what actually happened to cause the damage to your home, thus how much they pay and if they pay on the claim.
Okay. Now, another thing I've seen a lot of homeowners get mixed signals on the home value versus replacement cost. And I've seen this even a lot more when we start seeing our residents in, out here to the east in Whitewright and Trenton and some of those homes that they're close to being paid off, or they're worth a lot more than what they actually spent on them 20 years ago. And I see it sometimes their policies are only got, 250,000 for a dwelling, maybe 300, but it's really worth 500. So what does a homeowner need to look at? Because I know when on the other side of the coin, they say, well, I pay less in insurance because I don't have as much dwelling coverage. But the other flip side of the coin, if a tornado unfortunately does come through, they're only getting so much money. So how do they protect themselves?
Well, like you said, there's not a lot of ACV, actual cash value policies out there anymore. However, there are some, particularly on the content. A lot of things are HCV, and I can get into that. But customers need to understand that they do need a full replacement policy. So that is not the value that you think your house is worth. That's not the value that maybe it's appraised for. Because in the event of something like that happen, those numbers don't necessarily matter. What matters is you getting back into a house similar to what you have, which that then means what it would cost with new materials to rebuild your house. Customers also need to understand that that number doesn't affect the premium with most companies drastically, because 99% of claims are not total losses. So the total amount that they'll pay, and I tell our customers, my number one job to you is to prevent you from ever having a financial catastrophe over a few dollars a month that I could have prevented. So I think they have a conception that, hey, my house, if I insure it for 500,000, it's going to be twice as much as if I insure it for 250,000.
Mhm.
Not the case at all, right? And some customers will say, hey, I'm not going to build back as big. I'm not going to do those things. Well, you can make that decision, but look at the number difference on full replacement cost, because even with full replacement cost, even if you're going to downsize and all of that, a lot of times it makes sense to go ahead and rebuild. Now you have a bigger market value for a brand new home on that property, and you can then make the decision to downsize, but you're not affecting your overall financial picture because you have some money to put in your pocket if you decide to do so.
You also mentioned an important thing I think a lot of people overlook is contents. And I know, and just what I'm told, you have to correct me. Obviously, you're the expert. Most contents is 10% of your dwelling. Is that correct?
Most is more than that. So homeowners policies are different across the board. So they can be as low as 10%. Most of the companies I use are 75%, so they're up to as much as that. But one thing that you need to know about homeowners insurance, a lot of, like I said, a lot of companies, most of them have gone to replacement cost on the structure itself. A lot of companies are still actual cash value on the contents. So remember, I talked at the beginning about a deck page that says that will have a maximum limit they will pay out on it. We know how much the outside of your house costs, right? We can see the outside of your house. We have no idea what's inside your home. So in the event of a total loss, no company will just write a check for whatever that that number is on your policy. And I think customers think that's what happens. You actually have to go through and list the things that were in your house. I tell customers to take a quick video with their cell phone around of their house to prevent a lot of work. But then companies will pay whatever that number adds up to. So if you have an actual cash value, which a lot of um, homeowners policies are actual cash value on the contents, it could say $10 million on that piece of paper. It doesn't matter what that says. All that matters is what that adds up to. And when you're talking actual cash value versus replacement cost on the contents, we're talking about this shirt I have on being a Goodwill price versus what it cost me from the store to buy a brand new one. I just said my shirt. You're talking about your TVs, your couches, all of those things that contents depreciate much faster. And so a replacement cost policy will lots of times pay out double, triple, 4 or 5 times as much as an actual cash value on the content side of things. But I do think customers have the misconception of, hey, my house burned down. I'm going to get a check for $500,000 on the outside and 250 on the inside. That is not how it works with any company.
Yeah, and that's where I was good leading in that question, because unfortunately, I have seen some homes burn down. One got hit with lightning. One accidentally, got three-quarters of it got destroyed by a tornado in Leonard. And at those times, we've always read about the community coming together, you get them clothes and everything like that until the insurance money comes in. But then I went back and talked to the homeowner a year later, and she was like, "Yeah, I only got like $30,000 for everything in my house," and they were shocked to hear
Right.
that. And then she said we had to go back and we had to almost figure out what did we have, because how many people actually go back and through your house and do an inventory of what you actually have. You gain stuff over the years naturally, and sometimes you even forget you have stuff. And so the
Absolutely.
other thing I've seen is a lot of guys out here have guns in their safes. They have gun collections. They have large purchase items, and those things have to have what we call it. Correct me if I'm wrong. The verb is it called a rider or additional coverage?
So most policies, so it's different company to company. Most policies have limits on those, and so your personal property will be covered, but guns, jewelry, furs, paintings, things like that that sometimes have a large value, they will put a limit on the max they will pay those under a homeowner's policy. I encourage customers to look at what's called a personal articles policy when it comes to items like that, specifically jewelry, guns, anything that's over, let's call it 200, 2,500, 5,000, certainly. Anything that's over those amounts, because let's say you've bought your wife your wedding ring. Let's say it's $3,000, $5,000, you name the price, whatever. Um, if something happens to that, you have to pay your homeowner's deductible in order for anything on top of it to be covered. So if you have a $300,000 house with a 1% deductible and a $5,000 ring, that company is only going to pay out $2,000 on that. Those personal article policies are extremely inexpensive. You're talking lots of times $6, $10, $15 a month. And typically, lots of companies give you a discount on your auto enough that it almost pays for it. And also, those policies are what's called all risk everywhere. So, they're not only covered while in your home, lots of and I've got lots of examples if you'd like me to share, but those are all risk policies. Anything that could happen to those anywhere in the world. So you lose it. That's not covered under a homeowner's policy. You damage a piece of it. Maybe it's not covered under your homeowner's policy. Those things are covered under a personal articles policy, a policy that's very underutilized out there.
Okay. Dan, I'm
Oh,
sorry I'm taking this over, man, because I got
no,
so
no,
much.
you're doing great, man. Because there is one question I want to interrupt you on, Daniel, because I'm curious.
Go
Because
ahead.
I don't know if Daniel's going to ask this or not, but I know how he is. So, so let's say Daniel and his beautiful wife Carrie are at the resort in Mexico, and Carrie loses her ring. Uh,
Happens.
So better to have that personal articles insurance policy on the jewelry that are in the home versus if it's carried under a homeowner's policy. Well, the insurance company, if she loses it at the swim up bar, is going to say, "You lost that in Mexico, nothing to do with the house. That's your bad. So sorry." But if it's a personal, like you said, an all risk everywhere category policy, then they'd be covered.
Absolutely. And if I mean I've had things like that happen where the wife got mad and threw their ring, and then I mean things like that, it's covered, right? And it's not covered under a homeowner's policy, right? I've had them flush them down the toilet. I've had things like that happen, and things like that are covered. And I use that as an example, one, because it's funny, but two, because to show you that it's covered from a lot of things that would not be covered under a homeowner's policy.
Okay,
What is
okay.
that? What is that specific type of policy called?
That's a personal articles policy. And again, those are different from company to company, but most companies cover them the way I've been speaking of.
Do you have a
They won't
slang
accept
version
that
of that policy name? Don't answer that.
Okay, no. So if they throw the ring away, they're not going to get that coverage again, right? There's no way they're going to extend coverage to them
Well,
again.
again, different company to company, but lots of times you can see where that's led to problems with things like that. They're going to take a much harder look at it. Let's just say that.
I'm
I
just
would love
imagining.
to see. For me personally, I would love to see that string of insurance commercials on TV where it's the couple's fighting and the ring goes flying or something.
No, it's better than that. I'm just watching. I'm looking at Landman right now in the Crazy Wife, and she's driving down 20. Just throwing her ring out the truck or something like that. That'd be a perfect commercial. All right.
That,
The other option on that, and this is non-insurance related, is to say you threw it away. I'm not replacing it. I'm not paying the
Right.
deductible because you were angry.
true.
All right, another big question here, Jake. So separate structures. A lot of homeowners I talk to get in trouble with separate structures.
Uh-huh.
They've got big metal buildings, they've got ag barns, they've got expensive chicken coops that were made with titanium and copper. They've got RV structures, they've got portable buildings on their property. Altogether, they may have $1 million in separate structures. Okay, how does that work?
Two different ways, and it really depends on what you do on that property. If it is a farm and ranch policy, then those need to be itemized themselves, right? Each building needs to be itemized and have a separate value with each one. The other way you can do it, if you have a property like that, but you're not necessarily farming and ranching on it, you have more of a blanket coverage with most companies. Again, each company is different, but I'm speaking on your typical policy. So that's called dwelling extension on most. That's going to come standard with a certain percentage based off your homeowners. You have the ability to raise that. Again, this is why it's very important to have an insurance advisor, not someone just quoting your insurance. Because if you have those things, I would certainly encourage you to make sure whoever is dealing with your insurance is actually going out there, putting eyes on your property, and making sure that those buildings are insured properly. So again, two different ways you can do that. You can insure those barns, those whatever it may be, individually and separately, or you can put a blanket coverage on those through like a dwelling extension based off your homeowners, which may have $1 million blanket coverage on all dwelling extensions. That way, if one of them gets damaged, it's paid. If all of them get damaged, it's paid up to that certain amount. If that makes sense, most of those policies will have the same underlying coverage as their homeowners. Now, this has come into play a lot recently because of snow and ice. One of the things that you need to look at, there's lots of companies that will have a standard policy, a premium policy, all those kind of things. Specifically on barns, I would ask about the weight of snow and ice and what the coverage is with that. You have no idea how many clients we acquired after these snowstorms because they had structures like you're speaking of that collapsed and nothing was paid out because they were unaware that that was not covered underneath their homeowners or farm and ranch policies.
Yeah, I had two clients, two different scenarios that you both mentioned. One, the guy had a major hail claim on his house here in Van Alstyne. He had a ton of separate structures, and they just basically said you're cashed out. They gave him fifty
Right.
thousand dollars for separate structures and said, "Here, that's all you can have." And he had $350,000 worth of structures out there. And then on top of
I
that, they're not going to reinsure him because those things aren't going to be insurable now because they're not going to be fixed. So he's going to
yeah.
lose coverage on them. And then the second client had a really nice horse barn, hay feeder, and everything like that. Collapsed with all the snow and ice that we had here in February. No coverage. So now he's out there having to hand build this with all his buddies on the weekend and looking to see what's going to happen with that. So again, it's so important. I mean, clients just don't understand there's so much difference in insurance. I mean,
Very different. I had a one of my good friends. I do all of his insurance except one building. His cousin is an insurance agent, and he wanted to keep something with them. What's crazy about this situation is the only building that fell because of snow and ice was the one he had insured and had no coverage, and he was fired up. But that's just bad luck, I
Oh
guess.
man.
it's unfortunate for sure. All right, so I got another good question here. I'm going to throw you one. All right, so AI, not what you use in your day-to-day operations at the insurance agency, but what do you think AI is doing to consumers looking for insurance?
That is a very, very hot topic in the insurance world right now. I believe insurance is, I mean, I believe AI is certainly more commoditizing the insurance industry. Um, I think this is just Jake's opinion, no company backing this. I think AI will have a big role in the auto insurance industry because of what I stated earlier. Liability coverages, comp and collision, those things that are on an auto policy are very similar company to company. I think AI will play a heavy role in the auto insurance industry long term. I do think what we're talking about today and the complexity of homeowners policies, the like I said, needing to lay eyes on a lot of things, the needing to know about people's assets, needing to know about what's inside their house and all of those things. Um, I believe it makes having an insurance advisor even more important versus from a homeowners, from a financial advising, from all of those things that a lot of companies will do now. I believe it's making that very much more important. I believe it's going to take the quoters, like I said, out of the industry. And not to talk about our industry, but the majority of insurance agents, some with the companies I work for, even, and some with other companies, and certainly the online are just quoters. Right? There's not a lot of value to the person you're talking with, except, hey, let me see if I can quote this real quick and save you some money. I think that um, that industry and those companies that lean on that will be in a bad place. The people that work there will, because a computer can do those and AI can do those things. But I believe it makes the true insurance advisors much more valuable. And I do fear a little bit um, that the customer will the message that insurance is. I mean, just think about it. Just think about the message that is given to the public. All insurance is created equal. Shop it as much as you can. Get the cheapest every single time. What they're really saying with that is, hey, all the things that you've worked for all your life, we don't go anywhere and get the cheapest thing. But with the things and the people that we care about most, our families, protecting our income, protecting our biggest assets, let's not care about that at all and get the very cheapest. And if you think that an insurance company that is $1,000 cheaper is providing you the same coverage that someone that's $1,000 more is, I want you to just think about the commonsensical, if that makes sense realistically in your head or not. Insurance companies, insurance agents will sell those products as if they're the same. Um, and if you dive into it, they're definitely not. And too many customers find out that at claim time. So that's why I say I fear that AI will even more so commoditize that industry. Where I believe that having an insurance advisor specifically on your home, protecting your income through all the financial services products, I believe having an insurance advisor for those things will even become more important. Given that I think we will be led to believe that all insurance is created equal from those type of ways as well.
And
Yeah, we deal with a lot of that.
I think from a homeowner's perspective, especially if you've just purchased your first home,
Yep.
knowing that you have an option when it comes to your homeowner's insurance. What I mean is talking to and buying your homeowner's policy or policies from an independent insurance advisor versus calling an 800 number is so
Yep.
important. You have to know as a homeowner, you have that option. And you just talked on it for a couple of minutes about how big of a difference it is when you get that independent insurance advisor helping you versus just an automated phone system or an AI chatbot saying, "Yeah, I think this is a great policy, Steve."
Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
trying to say is that we fight the same battle in our industry. Is like we get called out to a lot of times to multiple people's homes and they want estimates. And the first thing
Yeah.
I ask when you want an estimate, okay, what kind of estimate do you really want for your home? Are you wanting something that's going to last you just to sell your home in the next 6 months? Do you want a roof that's going to be substantially better, sustain the wind that we have here in our regions, going to hold up much better? It's going to protect it. It's going to be an investment. It's not something to get by. And I go, what are you holding
Yep.
me accountable against too?
Yeah.
What other
That.
contractors are coming out here and what kind of estimates are they giving you?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I want to know
Yep.
what I'm comparing myself against.
And not only that, but it's
Very.
like you're as a roofing contractor, you're basically asking them, do you want a roof that acts as an actual shield for your home, or do you just want a brown tarp with lines drawn on it so it looks like a roof so you can sell it in a week?
Yeah.
I I advise customers. The roofing industry is the Wild West, man. Um, I advise customers, and this applies to roofing. So I was a financial advisor with Fidelity Insurance, Fidelity Investment. Sorry, I think about insurance so much; it's in there. With Fidelity Investments, and what we did back then, I learned so much, but what we did back then, we serviced clients all over the United States. There was no real accountability to what this is before Enron and all that crazy stuff, and there's laws against this now. But what we did with customers back then, we're never going to talk to those customers again. And so there was no real accountability from our side. When it comes to your insurance advisors, and even more so, I would say on the roofing companies, if if that company is coming in because of a storm and knocking on your door and never going to have any accountability to you again, I would be very, very leery of what's happening. I would be very, very leery of an insurance company that once they write you is going to have no repercussions if they do something wrong to you. I encourage, specifically on roofing, for you to get someone loyal. I mean, if you have a local company and they start doing people in your community wrong, they're going out of business. That word is going to travel, right? If some roofer that comes in and does 20 roofs because they are from way wherever they may be from, they've got no repercussions from that. Same thing with insurance. I use that to make a lot of decisions, and I think that's something that customers should do as well.
Yeah. So I know we're running out of time. I had a couple of questions here. We'll try to get them in real quick. Underwriting. Do you feel like the underwriting on insurance companies is going to get harder and harder for policies to get approved going forward?
That varies drastically. So companies, depending on storm seasons, but depending on those, it will go up and down. I will say this: specifically in Texas, but specifically in areas that have as much hail as Northeast Texas does. It's been very hard for companies to be profitable in the state of Texas. So you see things like all this roof coverage and all this water coverage that companies are cutting. So look for that in insurance companies too. Make sure that there's no fine print on roofs and on water. Um, I would say you got two things. One, it's going to be harder to get in, or you're going to see more fine print. But that tends to go back and forth. The main company I write for actually is loosening up underwriting right now, which is a good sign because over the last few years we've been tightening it up for sure. So it goes up and down. But if I had to pick one word to answer your question, I would say yes.
Okay. What do you see like the repair programs? I've been reading a lot of this in different magazines and articles and on LinkedIn and different things like that. It seems like a lot of insurance companies are looking at preferred contractor repair programs, and they're trying to mediate how many contractors actually work on their clients' homes. Is that something you're seeing also in your side?
Absolutely. It is because of what I just talked about. Lots of times these fly by night roofers will come in and they cause insurance premiums to go up in the long run. So they want you to be for your sake and for the insurance companies to be with a more trusted. Now, it is your choice. Don't get me wrong. With all companies, it is your choice who you choose to repair your roof. There are definitely certain incentives to go with the more preferred local trusted roofing companies and repair shops that we have a relationship with. So yes, we're seeing a lot more of that.
Okay. And I agree with you. I think, we've talked about this in other episodes. Without licensing and without state oversee, I don't believe the roofing industry is ever going to get to a point where it's really consumer friendly. We talked about, plumbers, electricians, HVAC. A lot of these guys have licenses, and they can track down your license number on TDLR and different facilities and things like that. But right now, until Texas gets together and finally gets this roofing stuff figured out, I mean, it's going to be unfortunate for a lot of people. And
I agree.
hopefully we can come up with something. But I mean, having partnerships, having that's why we really stress, to all our clients and to our podcast listeners is, get somebody local, get somebody that's going to be here for you in the long run. We don't have brake light warranties. Everybody knows what a brake light warranty is. As soon as they pull around the corner, you can't see the brake lights anymore. There goes your warranty. So, and that's something we really value is our long-term relationship with our clients and people that we work with and partner with, so all good stuff. Dan, I took up a lot of this podcast, so I apologize, man. What other stuff you got, Dan?
Homeowners insurance, good. It's honestly the way we sort of started this episode, which is for most of us who have to finance our homes, homeowners insurance is required. It is a requirement of the lien holder for us to have our homes and to buy it. But as Jake, as you have so eloquently said today, not all insurance is created equal. And when you're buying a home, it's very overwhelming. It's a huge process. And so you have to save just enough energy, just enough extra energy in that home buying process to not just call a random 800 number and go online and get a couple of quotes, but instead get some recommendations, do a little bit of research with that extra energy you saved, and find yourself a good insurance advisor that can help you with all facets of insurance, including your homeowners policies, which there are tons of options when it comes to that, as Jake is as you've mentioned today.
And I'll say one last thing before we have to wrap up. I can't stress this enough to the listeners. Make sure you have somebody local, like you mentioned. I know there's so many 1-800 companies out there. I know there's so many web-based companies out there. I know there's a lot of brokers out there. I just don't think you get the service that you do when you have somebody that you can walk in the front door and go, "Hey, remember me? You sold me the policy 6 months ago, and I just got screwed over on it." There's
Right.
no worse feeling for a guy sitting in his office than saying, "Oh crap."
Yeah. You're not just buying insurance, you're buying accountability and service.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Jake, if what policy do you have on your home?
I don't like to say company names, but I
No.
certainly have an all
I don't mean
Yeah.
company name. I just mean, like, is there a certain type of homeowners insurance that's the Cadillac? You're like, yeah, this is what I get on my house.
I have an all risk full replacement cost policy that has lots of endorsements that cover things that most policies don't cover. Lots of endorsements can help prevent those big catastrophic losses. I will say this to Daniel's point: insurance is just a promise, just like people promises um, from certain people are better than others. It is the exact same thing with insurance companies, with insurance advisors, with roofers, with all those things. So I would keep that in mind. And you're listening to one of the best roofers out there. Certainly delivers on his promise and those kind of things. So I appreciate y'all's time and all that.
We appreciate yours, Jake. If you would like some more information on insurance, especially homeowners insurance, from Jake Shockley and his company, you can find it at jakeinsurestexoma.com. That's jakeinsurestexoma.com. Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Appreciate the time.
I appreciate y'all. Look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, thank you.
Another episode of Know Your Home in the books, and another episode chock full of outstanding information. And who would have thought that homeowners insurance would be such a dynamic topic, but it really, really is.
Dan, I mean, we did this for a little bit over 30 minutes, and it's not even close to enough. I just feel bad for especially new homeowners. Like the premises of this podcast started with, so many new homeowners are a homeowner. Maybe he's been a homeowner for 5 or 7 years, but maybe they just haven't gone through a scenario that they need homeowners insurance or are taking a claim out on it.
Yeah.
There is so much information that you have to take time. And I know we're all busy. We got the kids, we got the spouse, we got our jobs, we got our, we got our charity functions, we got church, we got all these things busy. And the last thing you want to do is sit down with your insurance adjuster or agent and say, hey, let's go over my policy to make sure my family's protected. But it deserves that kind of attention.
It does.
That's what everybody has to understand, that a little bit of preventive maintenance, everything. We talk about preventive maintenance with our health. We talk about preventive maintenance with our automobiles. Now you just have to be preventive with your biggest prized possession, your home, that protects you and your family. Because there's nothing worse than standing on the side of the curb after a storm or after something happens, and then the next day or two you're traumatized, your family's crying, you got all this stress in your life, and there's nothing worse than probably finding out, oh crap, we don't have coverage for this.
Yeah. There's obviously lots to know when it comes to insurance, and as a homeowner, you will never come close to knowing all of it. That's why if you take nothing else out of today's episode, we cannot stress enough how important it is to get a dedicated insurance agent that is yours and not just a web-based thing, not just shopping a quote type of deal, because it's an actual service. And when it comes time to not just checking to see, what the rates are this year, if something major happens, you actually need somebody to help you, someone that is familiar with your situation. And an independent insurance agent can do that for you, because it's their job to know about all that stuff. That way you don't have to worry about it as much.
Yep.
And this is why we do.
There's nothing wrong with getting 2 or 3 opinions also.
No, please do. Interview them the same way you would anybody working in and around your home.
Highly encourage everybody, go into the office, look and see who your local agents are. Pull up your Google. What insurance offices are near me? Make sure they're local. See how long they've been in business. That you need to verify them just like you would a roofer or a contractor. You need to know who your agent is. Are they on your side? Do they even know what they're doing? How long have they been selling insurance? Has it been a year? Has it been 20 years? What kind of policies are they offering? You need to really go in and interview them and just make sure that they're going to be the best fit for you and your family.
And this is why we do this show. If you have any questions for us about your home, whether it's about insurance or any other topic we've covered on the show already, or a topic we have yet to touch on, email Daniel Cook today. Daniel@cookdfw.com. That's Daniel@cookdfw.com. And we'll try to answer that on an upcoming episode, or just a totally separate episode. Maybe we just answer all your questions. If you have found this valuable, we invite you to like and subscribe right here on YouTube so you can know your home. And if you're in the North Texas area and would like to schedule a free roof inspection and property review courtesy of Cook DFW Roofing and Restoration, 833-COOK-DFW to get that scheduled today. 833-COOK-DFW, or go to cookdfw.com. We'll see you next time on Know Your Home.